What is the dumbest question a customer has ever asked you? Story 1. I was working at an Italian restaurant when I came across a customer who wanted a salad but kept asking for pasta sauces as his dressing. He seemed like a normal, smart person, but for some reason, he couldn't understand the difference between the dressings and sauces. It reminded me of a woman who came in and thought everything on the menu was some kind of omelet. She asked if she could substitute French fries for eggs, not realizing that it wasn't an omelet. The guy at the table beside her sent back his croque monsieur because he thought it was an omelet. It was a funny situation because why on earth would someone think we were an omelet restaurant? If only he knew that by adding an egg to his sandwich, he would have made it a croque madame, and it would have been an omelet. Story 2. I work in an outdoor ski shop, so during the summer months, business usually slows down. We sell camping and hiking gear like hands and chairs, and we set up a few of those chairs outside the store for people to grab. Just the other day, one customer saw a chair outside, then noticed the same one inside the store. She approached us and asked if we had any of those in stock, and we paused for a few seconds to answer, which seemed to be too long for her. She quickly left the store, shouting that we were clearly no good at our jobs and that we should find something else to do with our lives. She even mailed the head office to complain, so we sent in the security footage and she is now banned. She used to come in often, but rarely ever made any purchases. One of our colleagues tried to be polite and asked if she needed any help, but she rudely replied, "Yes, you can help me by leaving me the hell alone," and stormed out of the store, leaving my colleague in shock. Story 3. I teach karate, and one day a lady came in wanting to buy some black belts for a birthday party she was hosting at her home. I explained to her that we don't stock belts for home use, as they were intended for testing and promotions. She pointed at my belt, which was well worn for my years of hard work and dedication, and asked if she could buy it. I thought to myself, why not? After all, I'd been using it every day for the last 10 years. I kindly accepted the offer, and she went away delighted with a belt that was full of character and personality. Story 4. On my third day at a college IT's department, I encountered a 50 to 60-year-old woman trying to get me to change her username on a different college's website. When I told her I couldn't, she flew into a rage. Then a longtime worker stepped in and informed her that we don't do that. Apparently, this woman had made complaints to the dean from almost every department on campus and wasn't allowed into the building. Over the years, she had made numerous attempts to get employees to help her with her work. She asked a newbie to write her paper, yelled at a coworker for not convincing her professor not to turn in her paper, demanded that the computer lab stay open past closing so she could do her homework, and even punched a security guard after being told no. It seems she might have been making up the cancer story as an excuse, but even if she wasn't, it's not okay to make employees work late just because you want them to. These places exist to serve, so respect the staff's time. Story 5. One day at work, I had a caller who was absolutely livid about his bill. It showed he owed a whopping $180 for the month. I gently tried to explain that a supervisor had already taken care of payment for the month and for May and June, so he wouldn't be expected to pay anything until July 6th. Despite my best efforts, he simply could not comprehend what I was saying. After a few minutes of frustration, I asked to speak to his fiancée. Surely someone with a brain would understand, right? But unfortunately, she didn't get it either. After 30 minutes of having to resist the urge to bash my head against the desk, I felt as though I had lost vast amounts of my brain cells simply trying to explain the situation to these two very confused people. Story 6. I worked in the seafood department for a large supermarket chain. One day, a woman came and asked to buy some frozen shrimp, but from the prepackaged bag. She didn't want the entire bag, just half of it, I think. So I was ready to open the bag when she said that she wanted me to remove the weight and cut the cost of the ice crystals on the shrimp. I just looked at her and asked if she wanted me to wash them off, to which she said no because she wanted it to stay frozen, so it probably weighed less than the plastic bag we use. I used to work at Best Buy, and at least once a week it would happen that a person would try to return software, and there would be anger or confusion. The reason they were either angry or confused was that they were of the belief that if it's on a CD, it should work on a Mac no matter what. I have no idea whatsoever where these people were getting this completely nonsensical idea. They were always shocked if we asked them why they would think this. Like they had wandered into a Best Buy in an alternate dimension where the sky was purple and you wore sandwiches on your feet, but clearly, wherever they were picking up this horse crap was somewhere with a lot of bandwidth. Story 7. 3 days ago, I had a customer come into my Starbucks and order and pay for his drinks. He then asked for the drinks to be heated to 180 degrees, which I thought he meant in Fahrenheit, but he clarified that he wanted it heated to 180 degrees Celsius. He claimed he had received drinks heated to that temperature at the other two cafes in the service station. But since there were only two total and they were both Starbucks, I knew that our coffee machines could only heat up to 85 degrees before the milk would start boiling over. At 180 degrees, his drink would have become a cloud of vapor. But he didn't believe me and kept insisting I was lying. So I offered to call a 6th grade science teacher to explain the concept of boiling point to him if that failed. As a last resort, I had some fuzzy felt cutouts that I thought might help him understand. Although I was being a bit of a smart aleck, the customer was being quite insistent and calling me a liar, so he definitely deserved to take the heat. Story 8. I used to work at a grocery store deli, where my coworker often got some of the most baffling questions. We'd exchange stories after every shift, and this one was particularly memorable. A customer asked, "Hi, we're going to get the 8-piece chicken, but how many pieces are in it?" I'm sure you can imagine the perplexed look on my face, but to her credit, she was being exceptionally polite. Surprisingly, some people thought that maybe the customer meant to ask how many of each piece there were. But no, she wanted to know how many pieces were in the 8-piece chicken. I replied with a smile, 8, packed it up for her, and she left with her food. If you made it this far, I'm sure you must have enjoyed this story. I hope you have a splendid day from here on. Story 9. I used to work at a fine jewelry kiosk in a mall where customers could find items like luxurious gold bracelets and necklaces bonded with sterling silver, sparkling sterling silver rings with cubic zirconia gems, and also attractive gold engagement rings with diamond chips clustered together instead of with one large diamond. I had a lot of repeat customers, and one woman in particular would come in frequently and ask me for each item she was interested in. Is this real? I tried to patiently explain what bonded means and how we don't typically sell diamond rings for $25, but instead, we have certified sterling silver rings with synthetic gems. Despite my explanations, she followed up each time with an inquisitive, "Okay, but is it real?" Story 10. One day I was working in housekeeping. I was cleaning the porch and the deck when a woman came up to me and asked to speak to my manager. It was obvious she wanted to complain about something. As it turned out, the sprinklers had gone off earlier that morning and left the grass wet. In a playful manner, I asked if she wanted me to dry the grass so that she wouldn't get her feet wet, as if I were going to recreate the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where the Golden Lady is walking on snow and the carpet is rolled out for her. I was so astonished that all I could do was remark that it was 30 degrees Celsius outside and the grass would be dry in about 30 minutes. Story 11. I used to work in a school library, and every lunchtime I would open the doors to the students. However, when the library became full, I had to put out a large wheeled easel with a close sign for the students to read from down the hallway. Unfortunately, this took up half the hallway, so students would try to walk in, completely ignoring the sign. My favorite response every time was, "Did you read the sign?" "No." "Well, if you can't read, you shouldn't be in the library. Goodbye." It's no surprise that teenagers don't pay attention. They don't even need to make a second mistake when their first one is so all-encompassing.